I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmasters, and this is LD and the MC.
Well, as you just heard the legendary Bob Cobb say, once again, you have arrived at LD
and the MC.
Number 8. Number
That's
8.
Right. I got to talk to you about this. Hey, you get every time we do this, Luke. Every time you're always like number 7, like you're shocked. Did you not expect it to last this long?
I don't know if it's that, Dave. I truly, it's an honor to do this with you. And I like to rub it in all the haters' faces that are like, you know what? Dave Mercer shouldn't associate with Luke Duncan. And I'm like, you know what? He did it. He did 8 times. 8 times he associated with me. And then if it doesn't happen next week, I'll always have these 8, buddy. I'll always have these 8.
There's no haters. There's no
no
haters.
haters.
I mean, no. I will say this. I was unaware of the hate that me getting into the pod world would cause. I mean, there has been some other podders that are a little upset at us, but I mean, hey, let's all just be happy pod family.
You know what, Dave? The term podder needs to be trademarked right now. So if any of y'all are listening to this and you know how to do that, let us know, because podder, you heard it right here. I've never heard anybody call, I've heard podcasting, potter, not to be confused with Harry Potter. You are a potter. So Dave, I think some of the angry potters out there could fit into Mom's Basement. And we always like to kick off the show with a Mom's Basement moment. And I told you I had one today that I'm passionate about. And that is the world of the hashtag chasers. Do you know what I'm talking about, MC?
I don't. What do you mean by a hashtag chaser? I know chubby chasers. I know that's a thing.
I know my wife's one of those. Thank goodness. Come on, Miss Marissa. Thank goodness. No, a hashtag chaser to me, if you put a hashtag on a picture on Instagram, a hashtag on Twitter, and you click that, it links you to all the like-minded hashtags out there. So for me lately, obviously it's hunting season. All the people that I follow are pretty much hunting. I'm posting hunting pictures, and it's very clear to me, has become very clear to me, that these hashtag chasers, they click these hashtags that are anti-hunters or anti-outdoors or non-meat, vegetarians, whatever, and then they just post just this vile, like the worst, the Mom's Basement comments from YouTube that we joke about on here. Nothing that anybody could post on YouTube can top what these people say. I mean, like, I wish you were dead instead of the deer and stuff like that, But I didn't know if you'd ever came across anything like that. It is mind blowing to me that people seek out things to piss them off. Really, like if that's not your gig, just don't look. I understand. Look, everybody is different, and that makes the world beautiful. But just why do you want to be mad about something?
I think that's one. I mean, there's a lot of good that the internet has brought in the world. A lot of good, but that's one of the negatives. And it's people that are upset about other things. They want to just chase it out. They want to debate with people that don't want to debate. That are busy just enjoying what they do. But that's also, Luke, if you think about it, that's human nature. I mean, look at freaking bumper stickers. I mean, culture has changed. Like. It used to be, man, I love my Chevy. Well, now if you love your Chevy, you got to put a Calvin and Hobbes sticker on the back of him pissing on a Ford symbol, or else you don't truly love your Chevy. You know what I mean? It's
people are brand loyal, man.
People, if you're into one thing, you have to hate another, I guess. I mean, you can't be a Yankees fan without hating the Red Sox, and that's how people are now. And it got me thinking. I mean, I'm a little jealous. I got to be honest. I mean, I do watch your podcast, Low Budget Life. I am a fan.
Thank you.
I am a past guest and a fan. And I love how you throw it out there and you're like, hey, low lifers, how are you doing? It got me thinking, but what are the people that listen to this call? I mean, are they midweekers? What are, that's pretty weak. I mean,
Potters. They're
Great potters. Probably a lot of potters.
Probably a lot of potters. So I don't know. I haven't thought about that. The low-lifer thing it happened from throwing it out there to the listeners, the loyal listeners of LBL. I'm like, hey, comment. So I say that's gotta be a LD and the MC fan vote. Like, comment. We want you to comment. What do you guys and gals that show up midweek, as Dave says, every week? What do you want to be called? Because it ties us together.
Humpers. I'm just giving you a little food for thought.
Humpers. Yeah, I can scream that in a crowd. Yeah. What's up, Humpers?
Are my Humpers up today?
You know what, guys? Comment, but it's Humpers. You bunch of humping potters out there.
You let us know what you want to be, but
yes.
I mean, that is the world, Luke. I mean, that is the world we live in where, I mean, everybody's got an opinion. I mean, you post something, I could post something today that said that me and Luke went to said restaurant and had a wonderful lunch together, and somebody would post it and go, why would you go there? You know, everybody's got an opinion. And it's even got to the point that, I mean, you see pro athletes, different sports people having to address things online and having to address situations online. And we saw that in the fishing industry this week.
We did. And it kind of lends itself to a conversation that you and I have already had. And that's one Jacob Wheeler had to make a post at the end of last week. And, you know, you don't like to see this kind of stuff. But he had to say, hey, there's a lot going on out there in this day and the age of the internet. People are making accusations that I was fishing in an off-limits area and that I broke the rules in the Toyota Series Championship up on Lake Cumberland. And for those of you that don't know, that lake has several marinas, most of which are off-limits. If you're in an FLW event, in a regular local tournament, I believe they're off-limits. So I've been up there a couple times with FLW, and they were marked off limits. So Jacob's defense in this situation, and in the picture, he's not fishing marina docks. I've seen the picture. I think it's been shared a lot at this point. But he was actually on the outside of a wall, and he says he was fishing a specific piece of cover that wasn't related to said marina. And the most important thing was, after practice, he cleared that spot with the tournament director. So that's between him and the tournament crew at that point, right? So not any of our business.
My biggest question is why, number one, is this all coming out now? You know what I mean? Like
a week later, yeah, or 2 weeks later.
Was this picture, did it just appear now? And when he was competing in the event, did nobody see him? I mean, he's not a dude that flies under the radar. I'm pretty sure 99% of the competitors in that boat or in that tournament, when they drove past it, were like, oh, that's Wheeler over there. I mean, he is one of those guys, you know,
no doubt.
Right past
you pay attention. You make a middle note. Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it amazes me that this stuff comes out. But I mean, bottom line is, if you cleared it with the tournament director, and that's what he says, then there is nothing to talk about. I mean, it's just really hearsay, and yet another case of Jacob Wheeler and riding that gray line. You know, we talked about it before. Some people say, you know, that's an area of gray, but was he the smart one for knowing the rules and where he could fish? And when he wasn't sure, he went and directly asked the tournament director. And, you know, you hear people online who are like, well, it's because Wheeler asked, that's why he got that. That's bull crap. I mean, there's no tournament director out there that gives a different answer for Jacob Wheeler that I know of anyway. So I would never accuse anyone in that situation. So, I mean, you tell me, who's the right guy here? Wheeler or the people that didn't know? Or is this just another case of him outsmarting and outfishing people?
Based with the information that's out there, I mean, I think it's just another, he got you again. I mean, he beat you again. And here's the thing. I'll say this, and people may disagree. If he hadn't been able to fish that spot, you know what he probably would have done? He still would have caught him. I mean, really, man, like we keep seeing these rule changes and these different things. And I feel like a lot of them are specifically thrown at guys like him because they get dominant. And I think when all the dust settles on his career at the end of it, one of these days, a very long time from now, he's going to go down as without question one of the greatest tournament anglers to ever, and you could make that argument now, but to ever pick up a rod and reel, love him or hate him. And there are a lot of people that can't stand that fact. And I don't know, but on the other side of that, he has legions of fans, great sponsors that back him up. I don't know, man. I can't jump on the bandwagon.
This happens to him more than anyone else, it seems. You know what I mean?
Does.
Definitely in the recent past. So I got to ask you, is this happening to him more because he rides that gray line more and puts himself in that position? Or is this also a combination of it's Wheeler and man, when you win that much, there is a certain amount of toxin and hate that is going to build around you. I mean, if you're I'm not even going to throw a name out there, but you think of pros that have fished for 15, 20 years. I mean, I'll be honest. How do you not hate Jacob Wheeler? I mean, just read his resume and tell me
from this year.
I mean,
just from 2020 alone. And you're like, what am I doing with my life? You're crying.
So I think comes from more instances, or is it a combination of both? There's just a lot of people looking for something.
I think it's a combination, but I will say that whether you're a dominant guy in a bass club, everybody thinks you cheat. If you're the dominant guy in the Thursday night tournaments, everybody thinks you cheat. If you dominate in the opens, he's a cheater. He gets all this information. FLW, Elite Series, I mean, they're like, well, he gets information. Well, the Elite Series has a no information rule. He gets more help than anybody. I mean, you hear this crap about whoever, insert name here, but I think because Jacob is on top so much in recent years, I think that's why he's constantly at the, forefront of these conversations, man. And I'll go back, and you may disagree with this, but I think that when Van Dam was just on a roll, like his big roll there too.
First 25 years of his career.
Well, I know, but you always heard, well, the best guys take him. You know what I'm saying, dude? I've heard it about Brian Thrift. I've heard it about, you hear it about Scott Martin. You hear about any of these guys that dominate or they make the cut at every event. Like it's a guarantee. Well, you know why? I mean, the bottom feeders like myself, we gotta find a reason to feel better about not being able to always be in the top 10 next to Jacob. So you got to be like, yeah, he's cheating for sure. So it's interesting, man. It's crazy that we have to defend ourselves in this day and time, and that's what the internet has given us, especially in the world of pro fishing. There's always some drama.
And everybody's got a voice, and everybody's got an opinion. Right. And man, it seems like somebody's always got an opinion on Wheeler. But I mean, bottom line is the guy wins a lot. I mean, didn't win this tournament. I mean, what did he finish 12th or 13th? I mean, he was just outside of the top 10.
I think he was 11th. He was the first guy out of the 10 cut. Yeah,
first guy out. But and to make matters clear, we're not addressing internet hearsay here. I mean, we honestly talked about not talking about this topic, but the reason we talked about it is because Jacob Wheeler himself addressed it. I mean, if Wheeler hadn't addressed it, if it was just a bunch of people posting stuff on chat boards and stuff like that, we probably wouldn't have addressed it. I mean, we don't have much media scruples, but we have a little tiny bit of it. And that's why we addressed it. And if we proved anything on this silly little pod, because we're potters, we have learned as 8 weeks into my potting career, I have learned the only thing we are on this show is honest. And man, we'll pay attention and see more things about that. But one of the biggest stories that we are hearing about now, my friend, is money, money, money. Everybody in the fishing industry, on a year where everybody is like, we're all going out of business. Fishing, like there's more and more ratings coming out now. I think I saw Humminbird's ratings just came at something like 53 63% raise in the fourth quarter. I mean, their sales went from like 66 million to 114 million. You know, Berkeley had a big announcement a few weeks ago that every company, you know, Mystery Tackle Box, they're all making announcements of mega sales. Sales. They're making more money than they've ever made because if it has a hook or a swivel on it, people will buy it.
Yes.
So my question to you, Luke, is with that in mind, with all these fishing companies making lots of sales, does that mean that professional anglers and people like you and I that work in the fishing world are going to be making all sorts of money? Do big sales mean big increases for pro anglers and people in the fishing world?
I'm going to hurt your feelings. I'm going to say no. I'm going to lean with no. So I hope you weren't putting in a pool, Clark. Because that Jelly of the Month Club may be rolling in. You know, this is an interesting topic, and I was talking to a friend of mine about this last week. And man, what are you and I needed for? What are other influencers? What are pro staffers utilized for? Well, most of the time it's testing new product, bouncing ideas off of us, but it is also getting content from us to generate a buzz about a particular lure, a particular rod and reel, you know, electronics. Like there are all these things. And, you know, I'll use my own personal experience on this one. And nothing has changed for me at this company, but with Garmin, I work with Garmin. Well, I was in the beginning when we first came out with LiveScope, right? And now, hell, everybody's like, doing whatever they can, jumping through hoops to make sure they got one. Guys that aren't even sponsored by Garmin are running Garmin. And so it's like, what do you need me for now? You know what I mean? You kind of get that sense. And so I think in that situation in particular, like it could change the game. I think we're seeing that with like Humminbird. There's some pro staff stuff changing now. Now Lowrance has their active target. So that's changing as well on that front. But I think in a fishing tackle sales, like which is our job, if everything's selling through the roof, I think we're going to see these pro teams get smaller, is my overall opinion. I think people will utilize COVID and say, hey, we got to cut our budgets. Having to cut our budgets, man, we're going to knock this down. But it's like you're saying, they're like, meanwhile, wheelbarrow full of cash, you know, in and out the back door because sales are just through the roof. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. And it's kind of nerve-wracking. I won't lie.
I totally agree. And I think number one, you brought up electronics, and I got into the electronics thing too. And I want to address that because have we seen the end of electronics deals the way they are in pro fishing? Yes. Like really, when you think about it, you've got more and more pros that are saying, man, I'm running every brand or I'm running multiple brands. And in a situation at the beginning of 2020, you saw all these, if you look at all those pro staffs, at all the companies, and it's not one company, it's all the companies. Has it got to the point that pro anglers just won't be sponsored by graph companies, or very few of them, just because it's not worth it? I mean, if you make, I don't know what you're getting paid by a graph company, but they better be paying you well, because literally we saw a year where certain people, if you had one device, it got you a check in that event.
Right. That's right. Well, could the same be said though? Are sponsorships changing in general? Because that could also apply to tackle. Could also apply to rod and reels. What if brand X makes a reel that you really like, but you're locked into this contract to only use this? And of course, I mean, everybody's using everybody's lures. Obviously, you've got in companies understand that. But I mean, will this open more up where you're going, well, if I get a $10,000 check and this company pays me 10 grand and I've got to basically give them my firstborn child and, you know, tattoo their name on my chest, so to speak. That's where a lot of the pros are going to start kind of taking their destiny into their own hands in that situation, I think. And 2020 will be the year that broke that, because I never thought we would see what we're seeing right now. I mean, you're watching Patrick Walters on Bass Live use something other than a sponsor product, and it's basically the topic of conversation for 4 freaking days. We've never really seen that before, man. Not like we have this year.
I totally agree. And I think, man, to go back to something we talked about, and I think it was our very first episode of LDMC, and it was how live has changed fishing. And I think that it's a direct all of these things, everything you're hearing, it's a direct result. I mean, years ago, that the anglers aren't put in that situation where they're having to make that choice. You know what I mean? Because years ago, you didn't exactly see everything that went on throughout the day. Now, the fact that the curtain has been lifted and you see everything, and it's not just electronics, it's baits and everything. The companies are being forced to make better baits. The companies are being forced to not have holes in their lineup. You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
You can't just be a company that's like, man, we got great spinner baits and top waters, but we don't have any crankbaits or we don't have any soft plastics. You have to hit every notch. And I think because of that, we're getting better baits. We're getting more honest anglers not because they decided, woke up, I'm going to be more honest.
No, that never happened.
To be honest, they were forced to be honest by live. And I don't mean that as an insult, but it's a sport where you want to keep secrets. I mean, part of the reason that the whole, Panoptics and everything didn't explode right away was because guys wanted to keep it a secret. It's the same reason that side imaging and everything had a slow kind of start, because when anglers see something that good, they don't want to tell people, well, live has changed all that. And now the truth is told. So the anglers are being forced to tell the truth, I think.
And the sponsors are going, wait a second. He doesn't use that crankbait all the time that he says he does. I mean, so I don't know. I think that, and you're seeing this in the boating world too, like sales are through the roof. Lots of big changes going on. We saw that, like Jason Christie going to Express Boats. There's some more announcements coming up. I saw Cody Meyer announce he's going to Blazer Boats. He's a Ranger guy. We're seeing a lot of changes, and I think I see an overall shrinking of the sponsor game at the professional level. I do. I really feel like that there's so many YouTubers, so many influencers, pro fishermen. There's so many different mouths to feed, so to speak. And I think these companies see, especially this year, hey, maybe we don't need all this. Sorry, guys. I would like to say that to all my fellow anglers out there that are trying to get some sponsor love. I'm sorry if we burst your bubble today with this, but I think there's a chance that we're seeing some big changes.
And I think that I don't know if that makes those companies bad. You know what I mean? As much as I hate that, as much as, trust me, if anybody's listening that works with me or Luke or any of us, please don't listen to what I'm about to say. But I also think a lot of those decisions will be made out of we're being safe. I mean, companies are going through the same thing. Like, although they're making it, they still don't know what's down the road. So I think it becomes even more important for pro anglers to offer more. You know what I mean? And be part of more. We're being forced to evolve. It's not just as simple as, I used to just be able to make 13 shows a year and, put them out. I mean, we produce content, daily, every other day, basically. Yep. We're putting something out there. So we're all having to evolve, no different than any business out there. But it's a tough time to stay in business, no matter what business you're in. And the fishing industry got really, really lucky with all the positives that we've seen this year. But, man, there's some real tough businesses to stay in business. And the restaurant business is about the toughest hit through all this. I don't care where you are, what the COVID restrictions are. It seems like if you work in the airlines or the restaurant industry, things have gotten very, very tough for you. And I have a story to share with you. And one of the most peculiar business stories I've ever seen. And it was big news here in Toronto. Anderson Barbecue. It's a barbecue joint in Toronto. And for the people in the South, yes.
That was going to be my first question. I was like, first question.
Yes, we do have barbecue.
Okay.
We do have barbecue.
Continue.
And so this guy, Anderson Barbecue, basically, just like a lot of restaurants, a lot of situations, he was locked down, told you can't do anything. You got to do curbside pickup, you got to do takeout, that sort of thing. Well, he decides enough's enough. And he makes a social media post and says, hey, I am a fighter of freedom. If you're a believer in freedom, I'm opening today. Come on down to Anderson Barbecue. We're going to have a barbecue. And place gets jammed with people. So day one of this goes down. The cops show up. Obviously, it's a big news story. They're breaking every COVID regulation while trying to keep COVID regulations. They've just broken them tenfold. So there's all these people that are for it. all these people that are against it, they're outside the barbecue place, and the cops decide, let's just let them run today because we're not going to go in there and start throwing people out and causing mass chaos. So they kind of let it run. And then that night they went and charged him and said, don't open tomorrow. Well, of course, he said, I won't open. And of course, the next morning he shows up, and what did he do? He opens, right? So he puts another video out. Come on. I don't care. They can't stop me. So halfway through the day, they shut him down. They take him away. They arrest, and there's booing and cheering, depending on what side you're on and everything. And day 3 rolls around. Okay, this is the 3rd day, and this story's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That morning, I'm turning on the news. It's like 5 a.m. I want to see what's going to happen with this barbecue place. Well, all the news venues and everything are in front of Anderson Barbecue, and they're all reporting, and they're like, the cops are here, and they have locked him out. They have locked, his restaurant. He can't even get into his own restaurant.
His own business that he owns, can't get in it.
Yeah, that's right. He's just trying to stay in business, and he can't even get into his business. So they're like, well, he won't open today because he's locked out. Well, a few hours later, video starts to surface. Somehow he gets into, he's in like kind of a plaza, right? So he gets into a neighboring unit. And it looked like it was vacant. I don't know how he got in there or what the whole details are. And he's in this unit, and he goes to the back, and he starts kicking a hole through the drywall. Now, the guy who owns the unit was with him and giving him the clearance, so he's not even breaking any rules at this point. But literally, he is kicking the drywall through another business to get into his business. They kick a hole through.
Kool-Aid man situation.
They start bringing in the food for the day, so they can start cooking and everything. Well, said problem arrives, and his doors are locked, but they're locked from the outside. So they start ramming these doors open, and there's thousands of people out front of this place, man. And the people are chanting for it, people are chanting against, and there's a cop leaned up against the door. He obviously gets pushed away. They open the doors. The barbecue doors of freedom are open. People start charging in. They're hugging and kissing, spreading COVID everywhere. And they get their barbecue. Buddy gets arrested, taken away. It hasn't opened since. But my question to you is, dude's trying to run his business. He pays rent to go there. He does all this. He's trying to stay in business. Now, I'm not judging aside. Is this man a hero for freedom? Or is he a villain for COVID? Yeah, and I don't think anybody. I don't know where he is. You know what I mean? Is this right or is this wrong? And is this even happening? Do we live in a world where you can literally have a business that you have to kick your way through drywall to get to, and get arrested for it?
Yeah, I want to start by saying, give me ribs or give me death. That's what I want to start, because I love barbecue. And I'm hungry right now. So it's tricky, man, because COVID is like all too well, I've experienced here. It's a very real thing. It's affecting a lot of people. But to me, to tell someone their hard-earned business, these people, they sacrifice everything to have a family restaurant, to have a bar, to have a concert venue even. We're seeing this, a lot of the small businesses in America that are really suffering are like these small music venues because there's no live music. And there's so many what I would call lower level touring musicians that need to play at these kind of places to make a living, to get their music out there, that most of these places aren't going to make it because there's no telling when they're going to be allowed to reopen. Comedy clubs, a lot of that kind of stuff. And for me, I understand that passion. It may be crazy kicking in the drywall, but he's trying to make prove a point. You're keeping me from feeding my family and from literally feeding the community. But for me, it's like if a government, is not going to step in and financially take care of people like that. Because you hear this story a lot in the States. I told you I read one from LA the other day where the mayor's office told a lady, you cannot have your open air restaurant open. You're done. And she's crying on this news thing. And in the same parking lot, they allowed a movie company to set up catering in her parking lot. And they said, it's different. It's different. And didn't allow this lady to serve the public. She had 6 tables outside. It was silly. So for people to be, and I understand why we have rules and laws about certain things, but we're just in such an unprecedented time with all this. So I would say the guy is, he's standing up for essentially every small business owner in your area and down here too, that's being told, hey, you can't open. If you are being safe and, we're all abiding by these CDC guidelines, wearing masks at this point, if you're doing all that, I don't see why you can't have your damn restaurant open. Like, that floors me. If you're at whatever capacity, I know you're saying they're flooding the street. Like, oh, that's not safe, from a germ COVID perspective, I'm sure. But would that have happened had you shut the guy down? Like, I don't know. It'd probably just be business as normal.
I think what people don't take into account a lot of times too is the pressure on somebody like that. The pressure on, and I know there's a ton of people listening right now that have small businesses, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be whatever the business is, it doesn't matter. And I don't think people think about the personal pressure that is on those people. And I don't mean, I don't even mean mortgages, their personal mortgage or stuff like that. I mean that the fact that they know Janice, the girl who slices the meat back there.
Of course.
And you know what I mean? They know the stress of that she's under, and she's turning to that guy and saying, man, are we going to be open? And the press, there's so many of those little stories and you think of all of us and how many of those little stories we have and how many business people. It's a very unfair time, because there's so many stupid things. Like, I can't go to a dentist or a doctor, without having my, I have to fill out a little form online, says, like most things, you get a QR code, you scan it, you fill it out, says, I haven't been in touch with anybody that had it or no signs or, everybody's filled out something like that. But if you cross the border, here's what'll mess with your mind. Okay, so that's to go to your dentist, which my dentist or doctor, there 2 or 3 people are going to be in that office. They're all shut down. There's hardly anybody going into them. But if you cross the border, there's no QR code. When you fly between Canada and America, there is literally, and this happens on both sides of the border, so nobody's pointing fingers that the Canadians are idiots and the Americans are idiots. We're all idiots, because listen to the setup. They have like 8 tables set up, like those 8-foot-long tables with a cup full of pencils, and you have to fill out that there's not even a QR code. Like, nobody thought, and to make matters worse, there's a security person that's going to stand and make sure you don't walk past those tables. You can't pass those tables until you filled out said thing. So they make everybody that was on the plane all just get together, fill out, share pencils and everything, and fill this out.
Oh my gosh.
How stupid is this? And you're putting businesses under for not. It's just a sad
it's like
time.
throwing darts trying to stop a hurricane.
You're right.
And nobody's got the right throw. You know what I mean? Like, no, and people are like, yeah, well, you can't do this, but you can do this. But you can't do, but you better not do that. And you're like, well, why? I saw my buddy Shannon Wheeler was here. He gets a text while he's down in Tennessee last week that says, hey, we're under curfew now. Can't be out after 10 p.m. in our area until after Christmas. I'm like, what the hell? COVID. He's like, well, that's when COVID gets wild, man. You got to be careful. And I'm like, who is thinking of this crap? Truly, 10 p.m. can't be out. Like, what if you got to go to the grocery store? What if your kid needs something? I don't know.
It's the same with the people in buildings. Here's the honest truth. You want the world to understand it, just make the rules the same.
That's right.
If it's deemed that there's this many people can be in this size of a building, that's the standard. It shouldn't change. You know what I mean? If I can only have 5, 6, 7 people, there's a restaurant in town who just put a post up and they said, we're allowed 9 people in our entire restaurant. 9 people. So we're going to go out of business unless people do takeout. And it's cool to live in a small community because, man, everybody, that place is jammed and everybody's supporting. It's awesome to see. But 9 people are allowed in there. Well, how come the most prized possession that any family has is allowed to sit in a room with 20 kids? and that's go to school.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? Like, how stupid is it? You can tell me, but we even have regulations for funerals and things like that. 9, 10 people are allowed. Here. So somebody dies and 10 people are allowed to show up to show respects to that person. There's no way we can do them outdoors. There's no way we can make some sort of separation. But I can send my kids every week. I can send my kid to hang out with the same. It's stupid.
I've got one for you that will just put a bow on this spectacular COVID segment of insanity. And so I have obviously a house full of children, and my 13-year-old Hudson, he's on the basketball team at his middle school. And they've played a couple games, reduced crowd, this kind of thing. But a little boy on the team a few weeks ago got COVID. Completely okay, but he had some symptoms, tested positive. The entire basketball team, whether they were tested or not, were then sent home for 2 weeks. Exposed, they're sent home. My 9-year-old Ryder, who shares a room with Hudson, is allowed to go to school every single day. No questions asked. This has happened since August, since our kids went back to school, probably 6 times. Between the five children that we have, it's happened to my 4 boys. My daughter's in college, but it's happened to my 4 boys the most, but at different times. And we always ask, same thing. Well, what about the other? No, they're good. They weren't in contact with it. Every time. And I lose my mind. I'm like, so wait a second. Hudson doesn't have it. He tested negative, but he is exposed to it, so he can't go to school. But Ryder was exposed to Hudson, who was exposed to it. And my brother, I have 2 nieces, same thing. They sleep in the same, one's 5, one's 9. They'll sleep in the same bed half the time. My oldest niece, same thing, exposed to it in one of her classrooms. She never got it. Has to be sent home for 2 weeks. My brother asked the principal the same thing. Hey, does Abby, my youngest, does she need to come back to school? Oh, she's good to go.
And that doesn't make any sense because they're probably sleeping after 9 o'clock too. Right?
Well, I know.
And right? The COVID is rampant.
Exactly. 10 p.m. Corona. It's like the purge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's impressive. Y'all comment below what's going on in your areas. Like, I want to hear this because I feel like I'm living in some sort of movie sometimes in Southern Tennessee. But then I hear this from Dave, who's in Toronto, and you get similar situations. And I know there's so many people struggling, and I know we've lost people from this. And man, there's just nobody's got a plan. I feel like I think that's the overwhelming theme here. Nobody has a plan, Dave.
No,
in the least. But no,
I just need to know: do I plan to go buy barbecue or not? What's the right move? Do I go?
You're just trying to get some brisket.
Yeah,
let's be honest. And you don't want it to have drywall in it from where the guy had to kick through. Let's be honest. I like dry rub, not drywall.
I think it's a brilliant move, really, when you think about it too. Because I'm going to tell you one thing: his business is shut down right now, evidently. But when it opens and when I'm in that, everybody on earth is going to either.
Of course, he's the guy.
Right thing to do not to go to see him.
He'll probably leave the holes in the wall so you can just it's like, it's a memorial when it all went down. Right, put a picture up the day that it went down. Speaking of things going down, there was a very cool event, and I believe you were supposed to be at it. To kind of go back to the fishing world. And I just wanted to give these people a shout out because I am, and I know you're the same way, Dave, especially when you have kids. This is something that hits near and dear in your heart. Christmas time is not always easy for everyone. And the Shakespeare rods, pier fishing, they put on this 300 angler, this Santa Claus tournament, but it was a benefit for Toys for Tots. And they made sure a lot of kids are going to have a Merry Christmas because, a lot of us that are fortunate to do things for our children, you lose sight sometimes that there are a lot of kids out there that don't get that awesome Christmas party, man. And that could come down to clothes or food or whatever. Like we think about toys, but It was, I would like to say, and I know you're affiliated with this company as well, but I was smiling ear to ear this weekend, seeing all the Santa posts, but then seeing, that Pure Fishing put that on. That's awesome, man. Up on Lake Norman.
Yeah, it was very cool. I was supposed to MC it, but more COVID crap. I mean, I couldn't get in with our intensifying restrictions. I couldn't get an answer whether I was going to be quarantined or not when I got back, and they quarantined more people. So every time I come back across the border, they quarantine me for 14 days, and which would have had me quarantined all the way through Christmas, and my family wasn't a fan of that. So unfortunately, I couldn't make it. But a cool thing, set a world record for the most Santas ever out in a tournament. And the cool thing is, I mean, this was the first year they did it. With the response this year, I think that you'll see more of it. And the fishing world needs more events like this, just because, I mean, it was cool to see, the amount of pros that were out there supporting and that sort of thing. And a really, really, really cool event. But I was not there. Sorry. I will try come in the future.
Would you have gone full Santa get up for that?
Hell yeah.
You got to, right?
Brad called me to do it, and the jackass that he is, I mean, right away he calls me. He's like, "Hey, so we have an important event we'd like you to do, and it's a Santa event." And I'm like, "Well, okay." I said, "Yeah, I'll MC the Santa event." I said, "Do I get a Santa outfit?" And he's like, "Oh, the team and I figured you might have one." He was right. I do.
You do.
I got my own.
I was thumbing through those pictures, man. There was some amazing, and you and I both knew so many people in it. So my feed on Saturday was full of Santa pictures, but like the takeoff pictures, if you guys haven't seen it, make sure to go check it out. But the pictures just from takeoff, just nothing but Santas in boats. It was so funny, man. Yeah. I love that idea, dude. I thought that is so freaking original, and for a good cause too.
Yeah, and you get the Santa outfit with the entry. I mean, it's included, so it's it'll.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Okay.
Yeah, next year, me and you will do it. Okay.
Oh, we're in.
If we can keep this pod together, if our little pod doesn't break up.
How many? I can't count that far. That's going to be like 50 more episodes, but I hope that we get there. So B-Rad, save us a spot for next year, and the MC and I will come over, and I'll be the Grinch. I feel like I should play the Grinch in this duo. Speaking of duos, the Bassmaster Team Championship was this weekend, and I think we got to end this one by saying congrats to Jordan Wiggins and Wesley Sams representing the Alabama Bass Trail. But
hey, Jordan Wiggins must be all excited. Hercules.
Oh yeah, that's my boy Luke. That's my boy. You better send me some chocolates or something. It's Christmas. Okay, she normally does. But Jordan Wiggins, brother of former Elite Series Pro Jesse Wiggins, Classic qualifier, and now BPT Tour Pro Jesse Wiggins. Those guys, I know I told you earlier, just Wesley and Jordan, they've got a crazy reputation around these parts just for winning a lot of big events. That's certainly being the biggest, but how cool is it? I feel I mean, and I'm surely you think the same, but like to get to go to the Classic from your team tournament deal, I mean, that's got to be, and to go to the fish off, it's like the college deal where you got to fish against your buddy. Then you go from being friends to foes there, but then Jordan, is triumphant and gets to go to the Classic. So now Jesse can't hold that over his head because they're both Classic qualifiers now, which is pretty damn cool to me. And you pointed out they both qualified through the same body of water. Yes. Harris Chain. Yeah. Yeah. When Jesse won the Open, the year he made the Elites, and he won, that was the first Open of the year. He wins it to qualify for the Classic. And now Jordan has gone down and won at the same body of water. And interestingly enough, because I read some comments, people were like, whoa, his brother won there. Not the same deal, not the same spot at all. Those lakes have changed significantly since Jesse won, but really cool to see. And those guys, they keep it simple, man. They're chatterbaiting, square billing, shaky heading. That's always our joke with Wesley and Jordan. they're like, well, we just decided not to go far and fish around the route. And 26 pounds. I mean, they're just really, really, really good fishermen that figure stuff out a lot.
Yeah, no. And I mean, you can tell. I mean, the amount of people that texted me about them, but as soon as they were catching them that week, I'm sure he's going to catch them, at the Classic. And that's it for bass, dude. We're done. I mean,
that's
officially done. All the events, all the qualifiers. We've got all our qualifiers for the Classic. And now the big question is, will there be a Bassmaster Classic? And,
the question is when and where, and are we going to do this thing? I was told this week it's at a sponsor event that it's on, baby. It's still happening, full bore, but we'll just have to see. I know that's a touch and go thing. We've talked about it on here a lot, but it's weird. This year has truly been, because we always say that at the end of the fishing year, which is normally like September for you guys. You have the AOI championship.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing your thing. I'll say it's been a great year. Well, hell, that's not a year. You start in March, end in September. This year was a year, buddy. We fished a damn year this year, and it's crazy. I can't imagine being these newcomers to the elites. They got to turn around. They just found out that they're in. You got to turn around and get ready to roll 2 months, basically. And you're at the St. Johns River. It's going to be, it's a very short turnaround. I was talking to Jason Christie about that. Crazy to think about, but it's good to finally just have everything's over with. It's nice to have an off season, I think. So here we are. We are finally there. And you are at the end of episode 8. We made it, Dave. I'm so excited.
But we got problems. We got problems ahead.
What are problems?
The tournament season's done.
I know.
We're going to have nothing to talk about.
This is true.
So that's when our gravy boaters, our potters, our humpers, our nooners, our midweekers, whatever you want to call them, whatever you guys decide to be called, we need your help. We need you to ask us, give us topics, give us things you'd like us to talk about and that sort of thing. Yeah. And I think if we proved anything in the first 8 weeks of our feeble existence, we don't really hide from any topics. We will address anything, even if it gets us in trouble.
We don't have any problem with that whatsoever. And I think that I'm going to scold you humpers out there a little bit. In the beginning, guys, we're asking a lot of questions, but I feel like you're still commenting a lot of cool stuff, but make sure you're asking us questions because we were really trying to build this show around that. And we want to make sure you are included in every episode of LD and the MC. And we really appreciate y'all listening. Make sure, if you can't catch it on YouTube, that you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon. You have no excuse. I said it last week, but still rings true. Anything you would like to add to that, my Canadian brother? 11 days for Christmas, and you're just a gift right here. Just a gift, buddy.
We're not the best show on the internet, but we're definitely not the worst. So please like and subscribe.
Yes. Share with your friends. We appreciate y'all. This has been LD
and the MC.
So real quick, I saw an Instagram post.
I thought we were done. We just had a nice
Instagram post. I saw an Instagram post and
I wasn't prepared. Hold on.
And I need that.
I'm not doing it. I wasn't ready.
Next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Next week.
Next week.